Paris in France. And in collaboration with the group Performance in France, I'm going to introduce you the study of perceived managerial exemplarity, the impact on effective commitment and stress. So first of all, I want to introduce you what is perceived managerial exemplarity. That means the capacity of the direct supervisor manager to put into practice personally what he or she asks of his or her subordinate. Well, I can give you some example. Like if my manager asks me to be on time, well, she shows up late every time, which is right there. And
That's so true.
she's a good manager. Or she asks me to work harder, to work late. Well, she spends most of her time chatting with her boyfriend or spending time in front of the coffee machine. I will be confused and upset. So by asking ourselves two questions, when is the presence of exemplarity particularly necessary and how it is perceived by employees? I'm going to show you two studies that we did. The first one is to test the interaction, in fact, between workload and psychological demand in particular, and managerial exemplarity, the interaction, in fact, on effective commitment. And the second study is to test the mediation role of role ambiguity and role conflict for the relationship between exemplarity and stress-related situations. So I want to walk you through more about this relative new concept, managerial exemplarity, by asking you one question, like when you notice errors or mistakes on the photocopy, do you rather correct the copy or the original document? That's the basic idea, the essence behind the whole exemplarity thing. But actually this concept is very closely related or even based on the concept of behavior integrity proposed by Professor Stemmons, 2002 from Cornell University, which is defined as the word-action alignment. You talk the walk and you walk the talk, you say what you do, what you do, what you say. But there are still 5 major differences between these two concepts that I want to walk you through one by one. First one, the definition, like I said, for behavior integrity is only word-deed alignment. Okay, you talk the walk and you walk the talk. And for managerial exemplarity, that is me. It's a more specific situation of BI. It's between manager's requirement, expectations, and his or her own behaviors. Well, in terms of extra focus, the BI emphasizes on promise keeping. If you give a promise, make sure that you accomplish it. Well, for ME, we emphasize on the role model. And in terms of target, the BI has no specific relationship that is applicable to anyone. Anyone could be behavioral integrate. Well, for ME, we're situated in a power relationship that is specific only to the leader. Well, for the hierarchy distance, first for BI, the hierarchical distance is not specified. It could be for the top management, middle management, or proximal management. Well, for ME, we are more focused on the proximal distance because we believe that is during the daily exchanges, daily talks, that the managerial exemplarity is most emphasized according to the social exchange framework. And last but not least, the level of abstraction. And for BI, they focus more on the values, promises, like humility, honesty, human consideration. Well, for ME, we are more focused on the specific normative expectations requirement that is related to the organization. So, about the first study, we want to know when is the impact of managerial exemplarity particularly important. By studying the interaction, in fact, between exemplarity and workload, as we observe in the literature, we know that behavior integrity has a positive impact on effective commitment according to the social exchange theory that has been perfectly explained previously by this lady. So I'm not going through that. That means that for employees who observe their leaders being integrated, that make them feel obligated to reciprocate their behaviors, which make them more committed to work. But we think that for exemplarity is particularly important when the workload is heavy, when we were asked to work more, that's when we got particularly sensitive to observe what do the leaders. So we consider it as a motivator. So the hypothesis will be the lack of exemplarity will decrease commitment, then this relationship will be motivated by workload. We passed an online questionnaire titled "The Study of Wellness at Work." So the channel of professional social network like LinkedIn and Video. And in the end, we have 158 full-time employees from the service sector. And we use a method of perceived managerial exemplarity that we developed and validated a year ago and submitted for publication, but not published yet. And they have 9 items asking people like how exemplary their managers are in terms of some specific behaviors. And effective commitment from the scale of Myers that many people know. And psychological demand actually is a specific dimension of the workload framework of Casbah. It means the perceived workload psychologically, like the intensity, the speed, the quantity of the task. And as a result, as expected, there's a significant interaction between workload and exemplarity on effective commitment. And this model explains 33% of the variance. And in order to highlight the interaction effect, we made the workload a dummy variable, low workload, and conducted a sample slope analysis. But surprisingly, we find that exemplarity, the impact of exemplarity on effective commitment is only significant when workload is high, which means that when employees are relaxed and not too much things asked, the exemplarity wouldn't work that well. So it's very interesting. As a conclusion, we can see that in our time of economic crisis, the employees are constantly asked to work more, work harder, work late, to do multiple tasking. So the capacity of the manager to show examples, to be exemplary, and to show the employees that the extra effort asked to them are also shared by the hierarchy comes to secure and to assure the employees of their commitment at work. So that's the message. And the second study, since from the last study, we learned that exemplarity will help employees to deal with some important stressors like workload at work. So we want to know whether exemplarity has an impact on stress-related situations, and if it is so, how it is understood by employees, meaning that we're looking for the psychological mechanism behind this relationship. So as suggested by social learning theory, that employees tend to observe and imitate what do their leaders. And however, if the leaders fail to be exemplary, the employees will be rather confused. Should I observe what he or she do, or should I listen to what she or he say? So they will be confused. And that is the concept of role ambiguity, means the unclear expectations, responsibilities, or role conflict, meaning contradicting requirements, which are a classical and important antecedent of stress. So our hypothesis will be, we're trying to see the mediation effect of role ambiguity, role conflict, that explains exemplarity, stress relationship, as you can show in this schema. So we also passed online questionnaire named Study of Wellness at Work. So the channel of medical network in French hospitals, because we believe that hospital is a highly stressful working environment, and where the clarity of the roles are particularly important. So it's important to understand how to improve the role clarity and improve the well-being of the doctors at work. So in the end, we have 299 full-time medicine interns at the hospitals. We use a method of the same perceived managerial exemplarity skill, role ambiguity, role conflict skill of results, perceived stress of Cohen, and psychological symptoms that actually we ask people the frequency of some physical pains like a headache, pain in the back, or a stomach problem for the past 3 weeks, the frequency of that. That's a more objective measure of stress. Yes. And as a result, we conducted the multiple regression analysis, followed the 4-step procedure proposed by Kenny, Cash, and Bolger. And the result, as we expected, there's impact of exemplarity on stress. Well, this relationship is fully mediated by the combination of role ambiguity and role conflict, as you can see, which is confirmed by the sober test. So there's a full mediation effect, as we expected. So as a conclusion, the lack of exemplarity will come to increase the lack of managerial exemplarity, come to increase stress and decrease effective commitment, and the negative impact on commitment is particularly strong, was only significant when workload is heavy, and the negative impact on stress or health are explained by the lack of role clarity. And our unique contribution to the theory and the practice are, there's a new conceptualization of behavior integrity by focusing on the role modeling effect and the importance of managerial exemplarity. Actually, we heard this word so often, especially in France. But the importance is highlighted. It's important to enhance employees' loyalty to organization, to diminishing role ambiguity and role conflict, for the psychosocial risk prevention, and keeping employees engaged even during times when extra effort are required. And for the future researchers, probably we want to look for some other consequences like performance, citizenship behavior, or satisfaction at work, or look for other boundary conditions, like some culture-related uncertainty avoidance, poor distance, etc., and other possible mediators like the cynism, self-efficacy, or MFX. Yeah, thank you for your attention. Any questions?